Action.
Okay. With regard to money creation by commercial banks, macroeconomic textbooks have been misleading students for decades by clinging to the theoretical fractional reserve banking system, which, and the money multiplier model attached to it. Not to be confused with the money multiplier model that you've already learned, because that's a different creature. So with this information, central banks realized that they could not really control the amount of money creation by commercial banks using the fractional reserve system. So they decided to abandon it in the early 1990s. Instead, they thought the best course of action would be to target the inflation rate by keeping it low, stable, and predictable, which indirectly controls the amount of credit available to the public and thereby the money supply. So for more information on how important this process is to the economy and your future, I urge you to visit the website progressivemoney.ca and pay special attention to the textbook fallacies page, which you can easily locate on the header bar. So now I'm going to pass out some cards, and then I'm going to explain exactly how the money creation process works. This is for effect. You got one, Dane? Okay. Privately owned commercial banks have been given the right to create money through the issuance of loans by the Government of Canada, and this is how it works. Let's just say I'm a loans officer at your local bank, and you come to me, say, asking for $10,000 for a second-hand car or whatever. If I'm satisfied that you're a good credit risk, I simply type that number into a database and it becomes brand new digital money. That money doesn't come from anywhere. Basically, that's how the money creation process works worldwide, and there are numerous problems associated with granting banks this extraordinary privilege, which many economists fail to recognize or willfully ignore. If you go to the current system problems page on the website, many of these issues, they're outlined and articulated. At this point, I could fly off on a number of different tangents, but because there's so much to say on this topic. However, because the scope of this course does not extend much past the money creation process itself, I'm going to stop here and answer any questions you have.
What would you like to see this current model replaced with?
Government. So the Bank of Canada would create it, and then banks would have to figure out a system so that they would have to get the money from the Bank of Canada.
Right. So that $10,000 loan, they would need to request those funds themselves, as opposed to simply creating it in a digital sense, or creating that debt.
The Bank of Canada would still create it digitally, you know, just like a commercial bank would.
Of course, yeah. It wasn't so much the digital, simply where it's coming from.
Yeah, exactly. The main problem is that banks are a for-profit business, so their reasons for giving out a loan do not necessarily go with our, with society's best interest, because they're mostly concerned with making a profit, right? So it's sort of counter to our interests. And again, I refer to the current system problems page, so they outline all those problems.
Thank you.
What are your thoughts on Bitcoin?
Well, Bitcoin, I don't trust Bitcoin too much because it's too volatile. And again, but it's still, that's a good example of money. Money you just trust inscribed, you know. If you and I decide that we're gonna create like money, like make this piece of paper and write a 10 on it, and we both trust that this thing's worth $10, it's money. Okay.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you very much.